Hello boys and girls, today we are going to be learning about rounding decimals, more specifically rounding decimals to place values that are less than 0. So what that means is we are going to be working with place values such as our tenths, hundredths, and thousandths place for the duration of this week. So looking at a couple practice problems here, I wanted to start off with rounding to the nearest tenth. And when rounding to the nearest tenth, do that. Here we go. When rounding to the nearest tenth, there's a few different things that we should be doing to ensure that every single time we are correctly rounding and getting a successful answer. So the way I like to start off these problems when I'm rounding to the nearest tenth, I first and foremost need to absolutely 100% know what place value I'm rounding to, and here it is the tenths place. If you have highlighters available, it's typically a great strategy to highlight along with the problem so that you know what the problem is asking for. And so I will always start off by copying down my problem. So I have my 0.099, otherwise known as 99 thousandths, because that 9 is in the thousandths place, and I just read the 99 altogether. Okay, so 99 thousandths, and I know I'm going to be rounding it to the tenths place. So the procedure here is this. I know my tenths place is right here, okay, and there happens to be a 0 in it. I will highlight it. You could highlight it in a nicer color than that, obviously, and then I like to put a box around it. And what I call this is my transformation box, okay? So the number that is within my transformation box is the number I know I'm going to be changing. I'm going to write that a little bit neater for us to see. So after the transformation box is created, we highlight, create our box. We then need to look at the digit to the right of that box, okay? And that's going to be our deciding digit. There's the old saying, 5 or more, raise the score. 4 or less, let it rest. Now what that's saying is this. When I look at that number just to the right, so this 9, that 9 in the hundredths place value, it is going to be telling me what I essentially do to the number or digit that is within this transformation box, or that you highlighted, whatever you want to view it as. Okay, so in this situation, what I'm looking at is this 9, and then I go to my 5 or more, raise the score, 4 or less, let it rest statement. Okay, and since that 9 is greater than 5 or more, I'm going to raise the score. I'm raising the score of what's in this box. So whatever is over there, I'm either going to leave the same as a 0 or change to a 1. I will never, ever, ever make the number in this box go down, okay? Instead, like, so for instance, if that were a 2, it could never become a 1. That would be incorrect, okay? It's either going to stay the same or go up in value. And so again, because that was a 9, my answer now becomes 0.1. And that's it. Notice two things. What came before that number stayed the same, so that 0 stays there. If that happened to have been a 10, then this would have also been a 10. Whatever is before that. So to the left of the box never changes, okay? What does change, however, or stays the same, is what is in this box right here, and everything after it disappears. These 9s no longer matter, and now I don't see them over here in my answer. So 0.1 would be the final and correct answer for that. At this point in time, I would like you guys to pause the video and solve for me number 6 down here. Rounding to the nearest tenth, 0.825. Okay, round 0.825, 825 to the nearest tenth. So pause the video now and solve on your own. Once you solve on a separate piece of paper, your iPad, or a whiteboard, you may resume the video to see if you did it right. Pause it. Okay, so if you did this problem correctly, what you started by doing is highlighting the tenths place. So I highlight my 8, and I also go ahead and I box it, because that is my transformation box. It's what is going to be changing. And looking to the right of that number, there's a 2. So following my rules for or less, let it rest, I'm going to let that 8 rest, and it's going to remain the same. So my final answer is going to be 0.8, and that is it. If you happen to have written down a 2, 5, make sure to cross that off. Find some way of reminding yourself that does not go there. But again, whatever comes before it does in fact remain. Okay? Right now, on your own, do number 7. So this means pausing the video one more time. Okay, good. Now that we're back, hopefully your solution ended up being 0.1. For the next problem, we are going to be looking at some of the fantasy information that we have. And here's Merv hanging out, and of course he's watching the Arizona football game. And if you are on, whose team is this? If you have David Johnson, he currently has 6.80 points, and we are actually going to round his score using the same method we've been doing, with highlighting, creating the transformation box, and going from there. So write down 6.80 on your piece of paper. So with 6.80 written on your piece of paper, I'm rounding to the nearest whole number. What that now means is I'm no longer working in my tenths, hundredths, possibly thousandths. Instead, I'm moving over to the nearest whole number, and in this case, that whole number is 6. Okay? Pretend this number was 16, and I'm rounding to the nearest whole number. Well, again, I'm typically still going to be looking at that lowest place value of a 6. Okay? So because I'm looking at 6.80, I now need to put my whole number, my 6, in the transformation box. Highlight, box it, whatever you need to do to understand that's the number I'm looking to either keep the same or increase in value. Looking one to my right, I see an 8. And so this is telling me 5 or more raised the score. The new fantasy stat, or the new fantasy score that this person now has, is a 7.0. Okay? And the reason that is because this 8 is telling me to raise the score of the 6, and it now becomes a 7, and everything after it is just a 0. So I simply write 7.0. For the rest of this time, please take a moment to solve these. You know how to solve using, or round to the nearest tenth. You know how to round to the nearest whole number. I'd like you to round to the nearest hundredth now on problems 8, 9, and 10 on your own. When you're done, you may finish the rest of the sheet that you have in front of you and let Mr. M know that you're done by calling him over to let him know. All right, good luck, and thank you very much.